Hi. Imagine for a moment that you can take the life of any person on earth. Light Yagami received such power, and the way he used the gift made even the god of death recognize him as a monster. A large number of crimes are broadcast on local television in Japan, followed by a large number of deaths. One by one, criminals are dying at large and prisoners in cells, those who are wanted and suspected of murder. The cause of death is the same for everyone, a heart attack. The Ministry of Health of Japan puts forward an official version: all the dead were struck by an unknown virus. All these people spread the information that what is happening is the work of a man. He was given the nickname, Kira. Someone does not believe in its existence, and someone considers it a symbol of justice. In the next summary, a message about a new crime is transmitted. A desperate man, driven into debt, decided to rob a bank. He killed 2 employees, and 5 people are being held hostage for several hours. The police have already identified him. A young student is watching the report. He takes out a notebook and writes down the name of the robber in it. Immediately, a correspondent reports live the latest news: the hostages are free and leaving the bank, the criminal remained inside. He died. The cause of death was again a heart attack. The guy who wrote down the name of the criminal is called Light Yagami. He goes to university, plays basketball great, meets a girl named Shiori and wants to become a detective like his father. Light has just successfully passed another exam. Light and Shiori go to the dining room for lunch. Everyone around is discussing one punisher of criminals, Kira. Light is on his side and calls Kira the god of justice, and Shiori is against it. The girl believes that only the law can judge criminals. Then Light tells her friend how the law works in Japan. The guy has access to the secret database of the police department. He climbed in there to find out what punishment awaits criminals. Instead, I found out that many of them will not go to jail at all, and the police are keeping it a secret, risking their lives. White even saw it for himself. Some time ago, he tracked down a killer named Taco. He was bragging about his crimes in a bar with friends. The bandits noticed that the guy was watching them, and began to threaten him with an attack. Taco said to his face, "I'll never be put away." By telling this story, Light hides its continuation from his girlfriend. When he was fleeing from this bar, scared and disappointed, he found a black notebook on the ground. On the cover was the inscription, "Death Notebook," and inside there was an instruction: the one who will be recorded in this notebook will die. You only need to know the name and appearance of the person. The news was just passing a message about another criminal. A man killed a little girl. The guy writes down his name in a notebook for the sake of a joke. In the morning, Light goes out for breakfast and is surprised to read in the newspaper that the criminal is dead, but it could be a coincidence. Light wants to check for sure. He carries a notebook with him and one day he meets the gang again at the head of the stack. The guy writes his name in a notebook and the villain ends before his eyes and dies. Light is scared and wants to get rid of the notebook, leave it where he picked it up. However, the god of death, a winged monster, whose name is Ryuk, is already waiting for him at that place. He says that he dropped the notebook here and Light can see him because he touched it, but Ryuk is not going to take the notebook back. Meanwhile, detectives are investigating a murder. They don't have any evidence. And there is no relationship between the victims, except that they are all criminals. The investigation involves a certain Al, a specialist invited by Interpol, who has solved many murders around the world. Al hides his identity, only his assistant Avatar can contact him. And he brought the detective messages. Al says that the murder that is happening was planned by a genius and this genius is Kira. Moreover, he kills alone without accomplices. Egami, Light's father, is appointed captain of the investigation team. The guy didn't give the death note. Ryuk now lives next to him and watches what he will do, and Light imagines himself a god and wants to create a world without crimes. Kira is now his middle name, which is gaining more and more popularity every day. An emergency news release is broadcast on television. The broadcast is broadcast all over the world. The presenters on the screen, Lyndall Taylor, a specialist investigating Kira's crimes. L calls him a juvenile killer with an inflated ego and promises to catch him, no matter what it takes. Light laughs, but his ego is really hurt, and he writes Ella's name in the notebook. The man on the screen grabs his heart, and Light does not even suspect that this is what was required of him. A real L connects to the broadcast. He turns to Kira and admires the fact that he can kill a person without touching him with a finger. L says that the criminal who died on the screen was sentenced to death, and also that the broadcast was not transmitted all over the world, but only in Japan. And now he knows for sure that Kira is here. The guy is scared. From a symbol of justice, he himself has turned into a criminal who is wanted by Interpol. The investigation team is conferring with Sal. He analyzed the dates and times of the murders. They coincide with the free time in the schedule of students. So the investigators realize that Kira is a student and kills when he has no classes. The family and Gammy are having dinner, barking. He starts a conversation with his father about the investigation of Kira's case. He wants to join the group, because he once helped his father solve crimes. The father is against and does not allow his son to get involved in this dangerous business. After all, the killer is a real devil. From now on, he barks constantly on the alert. He is a criminal, and his father is investigating the case. The guy needs to deflect suspicion from himself. Every day he looks through the police database of investigation reports and knows the latest news. Detectives realize that Kira is a student of Light. He walks with a backpack when he discovers that he was being followed at all. An unknown man accompanies him all day to the house. After returning, Light plans to kill another criminal, who is being talked about in the news. To find out the name of the person who is following him, in the morning he and Shiori take a bus to the university, where the spy jumps in after. Light acts openly, turns to the man and asks why he is chasing him. But he makes an uncomprehending look. At the next stop, a suspicious person enters the bus. These are the criminals from the evening news. He introduces himself as the head of the driver. A pistol. Light takes a piece of paper out of his pocket and writes a message on it that he is going to neutralize the criminal and shows the message to his pursuer. Light says he's a cop's son. The guy is going to get up to improve with this, but the man prevents him. He does not want to put the teenager in danger. To this, Light replies that he considers him an accomplice of the criminal. The man succumbs to provocation and shows his ID. He's FBI agent Rei Iwamatsu. The note that Light wrote falls to the floor and attracts the attention of the criminal. He comes over and picks it up. This is a leaf from the death note. When the criminal picked it up, he saw a backpack in front of him in horror. The man starts shooting at the monster, but the bullets do not hurt the god of death. And the criminal wants to escape from danger. He asks the driver to stop the bus, jumps out the door that opens, gets under the wheels of the car and dies on the spot. Light's plan worked perfectly. The criminal died exactly as he described in the notebook, and the name of the pursuer was also found out. Rei Iwamatsu is worried about revealing his identity. He tries to behave calmly with his beloved, but this thought does not give him peace. After all, it's enough for Kiri to know the name and appearance of a person to kill. Naomi asks the groom to be careful. After all, they are already planning a wedding on Saturday. I have an appointment with the priest. Light thinks about the FBI agents. He is afraid that he will be discovered, and then, for the sake of his protection, he decides to go to an extreme case, to develop a plan to find out the names of all the agents who are involved in the case and kill them. Naomi is waiting for Rei at the priest. He appears and asks her to move everything. And he goes to the subway. The girl is surprised by this behavior of the groom, so she decides to follow him. Rei gets into the train car, takes a package from the shelf, opens it, takes out a walkie-talkie and listens. Kira is talking to him. He proves this by killing the person next to him on pain of his own death and the death of passengers in the subway. The man agrees to follow the instructions of the criminal. Rei gets him information about all the FBI agents and writes their names on the prepared sheets. He puts it in an envelope and leaves at the next station, where he dies of a heart attack 3 seconds later. Naomi sees how her loved one died on her knees next to her. She is sobbing beside herself with grief. Kira sees this scene and remembers the girl. The head of the investigation team, Light's father, holds a meeting and tells that all FBI agents are dead. He gives the opportunity to voluntarily leave the group to everyone who is not ready to risk their lives and the lives of their relatives, because it becomes very dangerous. There are 6 people and L. However, the group is not satisfied that Al himself is in a safe place and hides his identity. Then Ella instructs the Avatar's assistant to deliver them to him. Investigators arrive at the hotel. In the room where the Avatar takes them, the tables are littered with sweets, and they are met by a thin, barefoot guy with tousled hair and pale skin. But in the Avatar he gives a sign that this is L. The group gets acquainted with him, they immediately get down to business. L says that Kira could only have learned the names of the FBI agents from one of the agents themselves. That means Kira is one of the people they've been following. The circle of suspects has narrowed significantly, and Al gives the group a photo. This is Chief Yagami's family. Meanwhile, he already knows from the police report that there will be surveillance in his house for 7 days. Therefore, they plan in advance and write down the next murders in the death notebook in order to divert suspicion from themselves. Shiori brings Naomi to light. The girl introduces herself as Maki and accuses the guy of killing her fiancé before the wedding. Naomi also says that he cannot cope with her, because the girl did not give her real name. She promises to hunt him down, prove his guilt and put him behind bars. Light is coming home. He understands that someone has entered his room, which means that bugs and cameras have already been placed there. Ryuk tries to talk to him and asks for an apple. The only thing the god of death eats, but Light ignores him, takes a portable transmitter and leaves the house. On the street, he talks to the god of death. Light has already figured out how to remove himself from suspicion. To do this, he asks the trick to find all the cameras, then he will be able to identify the blind spot. In return, when the surveillance is over, Ryuk will get apples. The Igami family is having dinner without their father. He hasn't been home for several days. Light leaves the table and takes a pack of bacon chips upstairs with him. Only he has them. When asked by his sister, he answers that they plan to study all night, and he still needs strength. They broadcast on television about the death of another criminal from a heart attack. Light is at his desk at this time, studying and eating chips. Elsa's group has been closely watched all this time, but the guy didn't do anything suspicious. Therefore, he cannot be charged with a new murder. They are removing surveillance from him. Light deceived the detectives very easily. On the way home from the store, he hid a portable transmitter, a piece of paper from the death notebook and a pen in a pack of chips with bacon, which no one would take for sure. And the blind spot turned out to be right on the edge of his desktop, so he watched the news and easily made a record of the death with the name of a new criminal. Naomi calls Ella. She has been working for him as an undercover FBI agent for a long time. On the phone, Naomi says that Igami laity to Kira, and she is ready to prove it at the cost of her own life. Shiori calls Light. The girl asks him to meet at an art gallery. Her voice sounds strange, and the guy suspects something is wrong. Shiori is not alone in the gallery. Naomi has taken her hostage and is holding her at gunpoint. The investigation team connects to the cameras of the art gallery. L appears in the hall. Al says that he knew that Igami Light was Kira, and now they will see confirmation of this. Naomi threatens to kill Shiori if Light doesn't confess. The guy denies that he is a murderer, and asks Naomi to release the hostage. The distraught woman wants him to kill her right now, gives her real name and waits for death, but nothing happens. From the street suddenly comes the howling of police sirens. Shiori takes advantage of this moment, breaks out of Naomi's hands and rushes to run, but Naomi manages to raise the gun and shoots the girl. Shiori falls to the floor with a fatal wound, and Naomi, realizing what she has done, panics and kills herself. Why did he let his beloved girl be killed? They wrote down Naomi's name on a piece of paper, because he had a pen with him. Well, Light wrote everything down in advance. He remembered Naomi at the subway station where Ray died, and decided to kill her even when the girl started chasing him. At the church, the guy found out her real name, because Naomi let slip that she and Ray were going to get married. Light's father came to the gallery to send his son home. The guy is sitting on the steps with the trick of the god of death, amazed that Light allowed his girlfriend to be killed. He has an answer to that: I killed Shiori myself, in order to divert suspicion from myself. He sacrificed Shiori and wrote the script of her death. Now Elaith has to pull off the last point of his plan, and he asks his father to allow him to participate in the investigation for the sake of revenge on Shirori. The father does not have time to answer. The consent is given by El himself, who appeared in the gallery. He's holding a pack of bacon chips. You will find the name of the movie in the description of the video. In the meantime, write in the comments, do you think Ella has a chance, and he already knows about everything, or the detective accidentally brought chips with bacon to meet him?